Greetings. Hello, everyone. I am Troy Lamel Stovall, the CEO of TEDCO, Maryland's innovation startup and support organization. I couldn't be happier today. You know, you've heard me talk a lot through some of these other ones about being, in my previous life, being a warrior, working in the higher ed space, particularly a warrior in the HBCU world. And so I have one of those warriors working with us, talking to us today, Dr. Heidi Anderson at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which, by the way, for those of you, many of you may not know about University of Maryland Eastern Shore, you're going to learn more about it today. It is flat out a jewel on our Eastern Shore. It has some amazing things going on that you'll learn about more today. But we're going to first learn a bit about more about Dr. Anderson. Dr. Anderson, again, thank you for being with us today.
Troy, it is a pleasure to be here with you today. And I agree with you. Eastern Shore, our campus is a jewel. And I'm glad you didn't say it was a hidden gem, because I am trying to get the hidden part out of that. So
I was purposeful in that language to not call it hidden. It is there. It is not hidden. It ain't behind no invisible wall.
That is there. Correct.
Folks just got to get down to it and see it. That's the point.
I agree. So let's bring it on.
There you go. But we're gonna talk about you, and you know what I'm gonna talk about, and I hope you got your little trophy nearby. So Dr. Anderson is a golfer. So there are for those that don't know, there are 4 HBCUs here in Maryland. We have Bowie State, Coppin State, Morgan State, and obviously the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And there's a nice little golfing rivalry amongst the 4 presidents. And they had this nice little golf tournament. And we've interviewed the other 3 presidents. And so my friend David Wilson is a little competitive on the golf course.
And I'm very competitive.
And so Heidi has a little trophy there in her office that I have seen.
You want me to run and get that?
I want to see the trophy.
Okay, hold on a minute. I have to walk around and go get it.
Go get the trophy. Go get the trophy. We're gonna get this trophy. We're gonna show this to folks. So she beat these the other presidents, and it's a nice little trophy about her golf. That is.
And look, we're not talking 1 trophy. We're talking 2 trophies.
There we go, girl.
And let me say thank you to Morgan State, because they give the best trophies. For those golfers out there, this one is for the longest drive. And this is for closest to the pin. And golfers know what I'm talking about.
There you go, girl. Okay. I ain't mad at you. So yeah, so we have a nice little rivalry amongst our 4 HBCUs that we love. So I'm gonna start with that. So tell me one of the nicest golf course you've ever played on.
Oh my goodness, that is wonderful. let me tell you, I've been golfing with my husband for almost 20 years now. And we actually, when we were in the Midwest, we actually participated in an African-American league that we went to a lot of different golf courses around the country. So the nicest course that we used to play on, and it is my favorite, is, believe it or not, the LPGA golf course that is in Daytona, Florida.
Okay.
And we'd fly down there. We played that course every year. There's 2 sides to the course. And I actually got pretty good on that course as well. And you can imagine, when I'm there, I'm thinking I'm Michelle Wee.
Go, girl. Go. I ain't mad at you.
So that is one of the nicest courses that I played at.
I have a dear friend. We came up through engineering together. He has played 1 course in every state, including the District of Columbia. Yeah. He's played every course. They actually the Golf Magazine did an article about him. He's wearing all 50 hats on his head. So my question to you is, what's a course you haven't played on yet that you really, really want to play on?
I'll tell you, it's Pebble Beach.
Yeah,
I had an opportunity to be in California and get a tour of Pebble Beach, and went over to the hole, and I was not able to play it because it was a business trip. The interesting thing, I had not met my husband at the time, but he said the same thing happened in his life. He was out there on business, never got to play the course. So we both are saying we want to play Pebble Beach.
Yeah, it is a beautiful course. I went to school out there, and it's just the vistas alone are just
exactly amazing. And like your friend, we actually want to play a course in every state. So we're working on that's part of our bucket list. The other thing, we both are really into the NBA, and the other part of our bucket list is to go and watch every NBA team.
Actually, oh, girl, you and I need to get together. I'm doing it with my son. My son and I, absolutely. We've done most of the East Coast. We haven't done Atlanta and Toronto.
We only have half the teams we've actually seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
yeah,
hey,
we got to hook that up.
we got it. I agree.
I got to hook that up. Actually, one of my good friends, well, I went to school with his wife. I went to school with him too, but I know her better. He is the COO for the NBA.
Okay.
And so I've been
Oh,
talking to him about
yes.
what we're doing. So yeah.
Yes. So
So yeah. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Yes. So that's cool. So you truly you love golf. You love the game itself. I'm a golfer, but I'm not that good. I love just going out there and playing. So I don't get out there with competitive
now,
people because
Troy,
they don't make it fun.
I didn't say I was good. I just said I love it. Look, and I can give you good golf stories, but like the next one, I can really live it up. So
I have another good friend. He's a swim dad, and my kids are swimmers. He's going with five of his buddies. Tried to get me to go. I couldn't make it. They're going over to Scotland and Ireland, and
yes.
they're doing a week and a half in Scotland and Ireland, playing golf in Scotland and Ireland.
Yeah, and the links, that's probably links, and it's going to be really tough. I would not want to do those courses, but we had one in the States that I did like that. Didn't like it at all. So
that's what he was saying. It's just going to be a different type of golf.
It's going to be a different type of golf.
But it's just a buddy. It's a boys' trip. They go on to have fun. It's going to be fun. Well, look, let's talk obviously a little bit about you and obviously UMES. But I want to start this with you. You're at UMES as an HBCU.
Yes.
But your career, your career has been at predominantly white institutions, particularly on the academic and your administrative side. And one of the things, and I'm probably gonna get a few little missiles come from folks, but as we think about what the HBCUs need to evolve into, to serve our students, serve our communities over the next 100 years, I think taking lessons from the places that you visited is an important part of thinking about. So I guess part of my question is, how are you thinking about what you've learned and how do you use, because I guess I used to, when I was in with HBCUs, to say, what got us here probably won't get us there. And so we've got to think a little differently about what an HBCU in the 2030s and 2040s and 2050s needs to look like.
Very interesting question, Troy. And let me preface it by saying this. Every institution is that institution. Every institution is so unique. And you are correct. My background has been in PWIs. But let me start with this. My part of my journey is very interesting. My background has been in PWIs, but when I was growing up in Gary, Indiana, and really in dire poverty with a single mom, I really wanted to go to an HBCU. But you got to remember, I also am a pharmacist. And so I was looking at those places that might have pharmacy. There's no HBCU in the state of Indiana. So I ended up at Purdue. That shaped me and who I am today, because being at Purdue, 900 Black students in a sea of 30,000 students, 9 of us in the School of Pharmacy, it really shaped where I started working after I graduated, because nobody was there that looked like me on the faculty, on the staff. And it really helped me say, hey, going forward, I want to not only be able to pay it forward, but I want to make sure I'm there as a role model for people who look like me. So that was part of why my career has led me to several PWIs. And in those PWIs, not only did students see a role model in me, and I happen to be the only Black and the only, and many times the only female in my department in the places that I have been. So it gave me a different perspective, but I was there actually to help our students.
I love it.
All right. So then you think about all of those years. So your question is, what lessons learned? So each institution, I feel, brings something to where I am in my leadership today. And this is having been at public PWIs, land grant PWIs, and HSI in there, a private, and all of that brings together several different messages for me. One, always about the student. It has to be student focused first. And the one thing I saw in the PWIs especially when they're very large, it's hard for you to become part of the student. It's hard for you to embrace and nurture the student like students need to be nurtured. The second thing I saw is when you're looking at high levels of resources, you can do anything, but there's problems in the PWIs, just like it's in an HSI, just like it's in HBCU. So you have to learn how to make sure you do, in our world, more with more with less. Exactly. And so I try to look at what lessons that I see in PWIs could do that. Well, one was leveraging. And what I noticed is they did that quite a bit. So for example, here, many people know we were the proud recipients of $20 million from the McKinsey Scott.
Yep.
I took that, put it in an endowment, but then took the spend of that to leverage it to do other things. And the other things for me goes back to our students is scholarships. Always trying to figure how to get more money into our students' hands. So when they graduate, they're going to be debt free. A third lesson that I learned was team. You cannot do any of this work by yourself. So you've got to have a good team of people around you, not just at the C level, the C-suite level, but even down below that. And you got to get everybody recognizing who are we here to serve? We are here to serve the students. So from the highest VP in my cabinet to the person who takes care of the landscaping, what I learned and saw is that if everybody is working together, then our purpose is aligned with taking care of the students.
Absolutely.
And my team will tell you, when I started in September of 2018, I had a motto called Team, Together in Excellence, Achieving Our Mission. And that to me is how you really work. And those are the lessons that I learned from those PWIs.
Love it. You know, a lot of presidents and universities talk about this definition of student focused. Expand on that, because that term gets thrown around a lot. You know, I've been in this space a long time, but I think not everybody shares the same definition of what student focus means.
You're exactly correct. I'm sorry. Some of those PWIs, and I shouldn't just blame them, but I've seen it other places as well. It's spoken, but it's not acted upon.
Exactly.
So for me, when I say student focused, it means, first of all, meeting students where they're at. Mm-hmm. And helping them throughout whatever they need. Let me give you a couple of examples. And this is where I think our HBCUs, we do it well. We do it great. Couple times, just 2 weeks ago, we had new students on our campus. And one young lady had to leave very early from Eastern Shore to get back across the bay. Well, anybody watching this who've been over here on the Eastern Shore in the middle of the summer, you know that's a tough drive. And on a Friday, it's even worse. She wasn't driving herself. She had a friend who was driving, but they were insisting that they had to get on the road and leave. This was about 10:30 in the morning. She had missed breakfast. She was hungry. They were pushing her. I happened to see her walking through our student center, and she says, you know, President, I need some help. She's looking for something that's open to eat. Well, nothing's open at that time. And I took her into our cafeteria. They rolled up their sleeves, asked her, what do you want? What kind of sandwich? What do you want on your sandwich? They took care of her. And that's who we are, and that's what we do. And she was able to get on the road. And actually, this was her first experience. She had been here for our summer bridge program. And when I walked her to the door, she said, I made the right decision. And that is what we mean. When I say student-focused care, you meet students where they're at and you move them along. And I want our faculty and our staff, everyone doing that. And that's what I see here.
And you move outside of the definition of a job description. In other words, you meet them, to your point. It doesn't matter if you're the president or the landscaper, you all have a role in making that happen. And you all have to sometimes go out of the traditional role to make that happen.
Exactly. It's why last year, one of the things I started on the campus monthly is what I call retention days. This is where we come together as a full campus and we show our data and we say, this is where we are, this is how we need to improve, but what is everybody's role? And when they leave that session, we have a checklist. This is what you're going to do. This is what you can do. And it's wonderful because we have opportunities for the individuals to share what they've done with retention. You know, another similar story, we had someone stand up in that session and they talked about how they saw a student who looked a little bit, you know, perturbed and not looking like themselves after they had seen them, you know, months before, and went up to him and asked what was going on, and was able to get that student guided to our mental counseling. And that's where you say everybody is now focused on what is our mission, which is the students.
I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. So you've kind of been playing, for folks, again, who don't know, you kind of Google a map, and Heidi kind of implied. So Maryland has a kind of a funky little shape, and right kind of smack in the middle of it is the Chesapeake Bay, which kind of, you know, there's still a land bridge to the north. But for the most part, the Chesapeake Bay, and there's this thing called the Bay Bridge, which I actually live near because I live near Annapolis. that connects this what's called the Eastern Shore to, again, the more populous areas of the I-95 corridor. And so she's right. On a Friday during the summers, you don't want to mess around. So one of the stories I like to tell, my daughter and I years ago were visiting schools, and we were down at the Hampton area. So we decided to come that route, and we were going to Salisbury.
Oh, no.
And when it was a Friday, and she's just learning how to drive, and I fell asleep, and she's driving across the Bay Bridge. And this is when, for the Bay, for those that don't know, they have spans, and sometimes on Fridays they have the spans going in opposite directions on one span. So they had to go in opposite directions, and she's driving. She must have held onto that steering wheel. She's about to bleed. She had to have steering wheel so tight, and I'm scared. I wake up and I'm scared because she's driving, new driver. But she got across with no problem. She said, "Daddy, I will never do that again." So for those that know, so I want you to spend this moment to tell us about this wonderful, wonderful place that I have had a chance to visit. I came away highly impressed. The University of Maryland, Eastern Shore.
Well, as you just described, we are in a very picturesque area. We are literally, for our students, and they love this part, because we're surrounded by the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, they can get to water in about 30 or 40 minutes either way. And that attracts students here for one. But once they come to the campus and see our grounds, we sit on 1,000 beautiful acres. We are hawks, and so we soar, and hawks are flying all around the campus at all times. But manicured lawns, I am so proud of what my staff and my faculty do, because they keep it looking great here.
You do.
And my husband and I, we walk the campus almost every night. So, and they'll see me, if there's a piece of paper, I'm gonna pick it up, and put in the trash. And hopefully I'm modeling that, and my students will do the same, because I can tell you, most days it's just pristine. But that's just the campus. Then you start talking about what kind of program mix we have. And we, as I say, I call ourselves, we are the HBCU STEAM institution in the state of Maryland. Here's what I mean by that. Most people say STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We're science, technology, engineering, agriculture.
Amen. There you go. I was going to bring that up. Exactly.
Of course. We are the 1890 land grant institution for the state of Maryland. Yeah. And I say that because when you are a land grant institution, you're known for your sciences, but you're known for giving back to the community. And for me, that's what I'm trying to make sure we push and have a good town and gown relationship. But I'll come back to that in a second. So if you look at our academic mix, over the last 6 years, our students have been enrolling, our undergraduates, 60% of them enrolled in these science and agriculture programs. So that's why I say we have become an HBCU that is really focused on science. We also are a Research 2 university. Now, I know that Morgan will say they're striving for R1. Don't tell them it's a secret, we are 2.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with David, but that's okay. We'll keep you right. We'll keep it to you.
You won't tell him. Oh, this is, you can close that part out of the. But seriously, we're moving up the ranks. And what we've done is, in our faculty, that was their decision to say we should move up and become an R1. Part of it is because we have faculty who are doing patents. In our pharmacy school, we have faculty there that have patents for prostate cancer. They're working on some patents for some other things, but that's one of the things that shows whether you're a research institution or not. Our fisheries, because of the agricultural area, we really focus on what's going on in the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean that's impacting those crab cakes that we all like to eat, before they happen to get on your plate. But we look into that and say, how can we utilize that? And our students, because of the research focus, they're coming to us for their academics, but they're getting a research experience as well. And we have a major emphasis on study abroad. So we get a well-rounded experience for our students to be able to send them back out into the global space. Let me share an example. Just this week, I was sitting down with Caleb. Caleb came to us last semester, his first semester, and in his first day of class, he was in his history class. The history professor was talking about international studies. The second day in class, she brought in the Center for International Education director, who explained how the students could make an application for going to a foreign country. So Caleb filled out the application. They were talking about it being for Ireland. He then found out later, after they accepted him, he needed to put a full year in. But since he's only a freshman, they said, well, you got the scholarship to go. However, let's look at some place you can go that doesn't take a full year. So he just got back from being in Ghana for 5 weeks. Met with me this week to talk about how wonderful the experience was. First semester here, and yet he was so excited. And his mom was sitting right there. Again, don't tell my president friend at Howard, but his parents and his mom, they're all HU grads. And she said, oh no, I just brought my son to the right place. I said, thank you. And the other thing I'll tell you about Caleb, he's an athlete. He's on the track team, runs the 100 and the 200. And the relationship, like I said, I try to build a relationship with my students. So before they cross the stage, when they graduate, I've had a chance to do that kind of thing. Sit down, get to know them, meet their parents. Can't say I can have done it with every single one, but that's my goal, is to try to make sure I do that.
And so you didn't mention, what I enjoyed when I enjoyed everything, but you got this plane simulator, you got this flight simulator that was just that crashed. And then you got the farm, you got a working farm sitting out there, lions and tigers and bears sitting out there.
We got it all. The only BS degree in aviation science is in the state of Maryland. Very proud of our aviation sciences program. We all know there's a shortage of pilots. Anybody watching this who's been traveling this summer, you had delays all over the country. Well, we're trying to make sure we put more pilots out there and more pilots of color. And so we actually have a partnership now with Republic Air, with I think also with Alaskan Air, and looking at some other partnerships like that to help increase our pilots. And yes, our working farm, when I'm walking the campus at night, again, secret, don't tell anybody, but I like to pet the goats. And talk to the goats. Yes.
Funny girl, you're funny. So you're an HBCU, and so being an HBCU, you clearly you are about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes. But sometimes I think people don't think about DEI as it relates to HBCU. They think just because you are. But talk about what that means for you, and then what it means for UMES.
Very good question, Troy. I think everyone these days, and especially after the unfortunate death of George Floyd, is trying to move into the DEI space. Mm-hmm. And, and especially those places that are not already diverse. DEI really means making sure you respect people in all of their characteristics. Exactly. And you do that no matter what. So here at UMES, with us being an HBCU, DEI is still very much a value that we have, because even though we are an HBCU, we want to make sure we're embracing all peoples, and no matter where they come from, whether it's race, whether it's sexual orientation, whatever it may be. And so that's what I see DEI is really about, is respectful of people and being inclusive in everything that you do. I'll give you an example. For me, DEI is a fundamental part of my values. When I came on our campus, we had a restaurant on the campus whose CEO, I know, does not respect DEI. Mm. And so I talked with the students, and we went back and forth, and I said, if you want to make sure that you send messages, you put your money where your talk is. And this particular restaurant, I got the students aware of what was going on and the CEI's values, and we got them removed. We removed them from the campus. I don't want to say who that is. Yeah,
of course.
But I think people can figure it out there. But to me, that's what DEI is. You align it with your values in everything that you do, and you make sure you're being respectful of people at all times.
Yeah, and to your point, it's got to be infused into operations, into finance. The decision-making has to, how you think about selecting vendors, how you think about bringing your colleagues, both faculty and staff on. And to your point, and supporting to your point of student focus, how you think about students. And I'm an old Star Trek guy, and I talk about, Heidi, you don't want to be like the Borg. You don't want to be assimilating folks, right? You want to be able to accommodate folks and make sure that you are in integrating the best of them into the best of you.
Exactly. And you have to be intentional daily. You have to walk the walk.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Right. I also like Star Trek, and especially the old ones with the Borg and with Spock.
Yeah, it's, we're taping this and we just recently lost, Lieutenant Hora.
Yes.
I talk about
Yes.
that I grew up, that was my first black crush. I mean, that black woman, that was fine black woman with the afro, and that was just, that was on.
I'm leaving that alone, Troy.
I was like, my goodness, that Lieutenant Hurl was like, oh my goodness, yes, yes, yes. But yeah, we lost. That was a great loss there. So look, in closing, I want to get to this about like you said, you started in 2018. So you had a couple of years, right? You started in 2018, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had a couple of years before this thing called COVID hit, right? And and so I'm sure you were boogieing along. You had 2018, 2019, and then 2020 comes along and it just puts a slam break on. So I guess my question though is, and we think we're seeing some semblance of normality returning. We're not quite sure. I don't think any of us are really sure what normal now means. I think that's we're redefining what the normal is. But I guess my two questions for you is, one, just at a personal level, we all kind of went into our homes and kind of locked down, and we took on some new habits. Is there something what's a thing that you came out of this with that you want to continue personally that you started doing? And then from a leadership point of view, what did you learn about yourself as a leader and the institution coming out of this?
Good questions, Troy. Let me start by saying you're correct. I started in September of 2018. And this is now coming up on September of 2022. So half of my presidency has been in COVID.
Yeah.
And I say that to people because COVID was something none of us knew about. We had no playbook on how to get through it. And so from a personal level, it was interesting. One of the things in the first few months of COVID I found, and even though I live on campus, like most of us, I was hunkered down in the house.
Exactly.
And I had given up my exercise. And so one of the personal things I came out with is to get back on top of that and make sure I'm keeping up with exercise and do it on a regular basis.
So that's the little thing you got there. You're doing your calf thing.
Oh, yes. Oh, look. But think about that. And I think a lot of us did that because it was so scary. Right. I mean, I'm a pharmacist and and I'm reading the journals and I'm calling my friends in pharmaceutical industry. What's going on? Can I trust this? Can I trust that?
Yeah.
And getting the intel, but it still was very scary. And once we got over the fear and started really trying to educate ourselves, it became pretty clear we're going to live with this for a while. Absolutely. So that's the personal thing I came out with is no matter whatever happens, you got to continue that routine that you have, the exercise, the prayer, whatever moves you. From a leadership standpoint, I was so proud of my entire faculty and staff, but even more so my students. And I have to tell you this story. My student leaders came together. So all of us shut down in March of 2020. We sent students home.
Right.
In June of 2020, my student leaders came and they said, we need to have a conversation with you. So we got a dinner plan, socially distanced, 30 student leaders. And what they wanted to say to me, Troy, was literally heartbreaking. Those students had been at home for a few months. And what they wanted me to know was it wasn't working for many of them.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi was not going well. Some of them had family members in a shared space that they couldn't study. They didn't have their usual tools like they have here in the campus. And they said, Madam President, whatever you do, you got to bring us back. You have to bring us back. And so myself having dinner with them and with my husband, because I wanted them to do real talk that night, let me roll up my sleeves, come back to my team the next day and say, we got to figure this out. And so we bounced back more resilient. So from a leadership standpoint, our resiliency is off the charts. My team, with those students' help, we were able to bring those kids back for a fall semester starting that July of 2020. We spent the full semester with no outbreaks, with no shutdown from the public health. Thank you. The only school in the state, the only institution in the state that was able to do that and get the students a safe education. And it wasn't all of them because we left it with hybrid. Those who didn't want to come back to campus, we also taught them in hybrid fashion. But I was so proud of the campus, but especially those students. Their student leaders, Michael and James, they made sure they took care of them. And basically, it was just a wonderful experience, but it showed me from a leadership standpoint, our resilience and tenacity and how we can move things forward. at the
That's
drop of
beautiful.
a dime.
And you know this, look, the students that you serve and that many HBCUs serve, you just said it, they when they had to go home, they didn't go home to a place that frankly they could study at many times, not all, but in many times there was not a place they could study for a variety of reasons.
Exactly. If that had been me when I was in undergraduate, I wouldn't be standing here today, because my home was one of poverty, and I've told you about the crime there, and obviously a crowded 1-bedroom home. I wouldn't have been able to survive. So I totally got it when they talked to me.
No. So you could relate. That was the whole point. Yes. There was a relation to relate. And the story of what you said of how the resilience, I think that's, you're right. There's a perseverance. I think that's the other word. There's a perseverance. I think we're all going to have. You're a pharmacist, so you get. I've been joking with my doctor friends. We're going to learn the Greek alphabet, along the way, because they're going to keep naming another variant. But that's the world we're in, and we can't go back to. I don't believe we can go back to 2020 and hunker down again. So we're just going to have to figure out how to live with this thing. That's
exactly what we have to do. And that's where we are. Most healthcare providers will tell you, this is here to stay. And we just have to figure out how to make sure from a social self-responsibility, how we do what we need to do. So we did like everyone, mandatory mask, mandatory vaccinations, mandatory testing. And now we're saying, hey, we're shifting more to social responsibility.
I like that. Well, look, as we close, I want you to give us a last word on what you want folks to know about UMES. What's that thing you want them to remember about this UMES and come visit UMES?
Spectacular faculty, staff here, and students will have the best experience, but you will leave being a global leader, because we are not just going to prepare you for your academic discipline. We're going to prepare you to think very critically, to solve problems, and to always give back to your community. Because hawks soar, right? Hawks soar, we soar. Everything you do. Hawks soar. Well, look, Heidi, thank you for spending some time with us today. I really, really do appreciate all you do. And I didn't say this, people may wonder, what's the TEDCO UMES connection? I think I've mentioned this before with some of you. So with UMES and Morgan and Coppin and Bowie, we have launched the Open Institute for Black Women Entrepreneur Excellence. And each of the 4 HBCUs have contributed their kind of piece of this, of what they bring to the table in terms of their excellence around entrepreneurs. And so we're doing a launch right now with our friends in Howard County. So if you go online to TEDCO, you'll see more information about that. But we're going to be doing a lot. You'll hear a lot more announcements that work that we're doing with UMES in the future. So Heidi, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your friendship. And thank you for being on here today. Thank you for having me very much, Troy. Thank you. To all of our listeners, again, we can't thank you enough. Appreciate you. Thanks again. This is Troy Lamel Stovall, the CEO of TEDCO. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, stay blessed. Take care.